Let me ask you this.
We're back.
Where did we stop? It stopped it when, okay, so can you go back to where things were good until things went bad?
I don't think most people even notice because I could barely even notice. We're continue where we left off before that happened, before the interruption happened, and because we're hour and live, I can't exactly go back on the live until afterwards.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm trying to recall where we were.
We were talking about changing things from within.
Yes, that's right. With elections, winning elections, candidates, and companies supporting candidates that will fight for them and move it forward. And okay, looks like we have maybe a caller. Her name is Ann Wozniak. She is from Michigan. She is our Michigan campaign manager. She appears to be attempting to get in touch with Tabitha Fenn, who is supposed to be a guest on today's show. And it appears there may be somebody else that she is communicating with. She says Tabitha Fenn's voicemail is completely full. So it looks like when I got off the phone with Tabitha, she said that she had a call from her attorney, and she deals with a lot of personal stuff. That's one reason Ann Wozniak was chosen as the campaign for Michigan, because we need someone who is available to do the things that need to get done. And for that, I'm hopeful that there will be more. Like I said, right now we have about 10 states. The majority of them have campaign managers. Florida, we've got Missouri, Alabama, Michigan, Minnesota. We may have somebody for Georgia. There's a gentleman by the name of Larry Baker, who is very active. He has 2 daughters he's trying to parent. They took them from him, that is CPS. And he's been in Washington, D.C. this week talking to senators about the problems in the family court with CPS and government funding of CPS and Title IV-E funding. That is a problem that he addressed and addresses. There's another issue. He's going to go to Minnesota to be with Tally Rosquez. Tally is our Minnesota campaign manager. And they have a meeting at the Capitol in Minnesota in St. Paul every month on the 18th. And that would be this Friday. And there's a chance that I may be able to participate in it. So we will see there. But the good news is between now and the 3rd of September, I will be very engaged in the process of moving the campaign forward here in Florida and these airports and in the hangars. We have to have hangars here because the weather here is very unpredictable and causes me personally a lot of concern as to people on the stage, getting them organized to give their testimony and let the media cover the story as it needs to be so that the people can know what's really going on, and then provide me the opportunity to come on as a candidate for president to tell them why this has happened and what must happen in order for it to stop. And for that, I am blessed. What say you, Stephen? I can't hear you. Hello?
Sorry, I had switched over the audio modes for the live callers in case somebody called in. It does affect the mic. Can you hear me okay now?
Yes.
All right. No, I was just in case they did. I said switched it over, anticipating if we were going to get a call, but unfortunately, the normal mic is gets cut out because of that. I switched it back though. I think you're right. I feel blessed to be part of this movement because what we're doing is showing people that we have to be active participants in making the change. Because if we don't and expect somebody else to do it and say, oh, it'll solve itself, it's not going to solve itself, folks. The whole purpose of our country that this was founded on was to become active participants and to be engaged in our government, which is why they were initially supposed to have term limits, and the people were supposed to be representative of the people and swapped out into these positions in the first place, but it's become corporatized. And have you seen that video by with the interview with Dr. Jan Halper on GBN on the 3rd?
No.
Oh, wow. It's big news, folks. Big news. Can I screen share it? I think it's explains a lot of our problem possibly with the whole, because apparently we were the United States corporation up until 2018, which then had been dissolved apparently, according to this latest information.
Really? Because 1871, the Congress initiated a proclamation that America was now a corporation.
Yep. So now it's been dissolved apparently, but this is just breaking. I'm going to play it. It's about 10 minutes long. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
But I think it's relevant to what we're talking about.
All right.
Studio, good to see you as always.
Good to see you.
There's so many people putting this down as a political conspiracy theory, but actually there are real questions to be answered here.
There are?
Yeah, of course there are. Of course there are.
What he's being accused of, but what part do you think is to answer that the 2020 election is going to be litigated because of this? They've made a huge mistake with this one. Because even though we thought what was going to happen was they were going to go after him for treason or sedition, but they did criminally charge him, but they didn't go to that extreme. As a result, he has due process, so he can subpoena people and bring things in. Now, let me say something about this 2020 election, is that Biden is the legitimate president, but he's the legitimate president of what is now the bankrupt U.S. corporation. And that was a treaty in 1871. Well, on September 12, 2018, Trump created an executive order. Within that, he outlined in future elections any kind of foreign or domestic interference, specifically for the 2020 election. So we say, how did he know some of these things were going to happen? Election integrity on both sides of the aisle is tough. It's really tough. But what this has done is it's opened the door for Trump to present his case.
Well, that's a good thing, isn't it? Because what we see on this side of the pond is a very difficult situation where the legal system is politicised in the United States, which is abhorrent to us over here. So the fact that Trump can subpoena, some people saying it's a mistake by Jack Smith, but actually he can subpoena, people can actually see evidence from both sides. That's a sensible move. Exactly.
And it's a great mistake by Jack Smith that he's done that. Absolutely great. See, the thing is, think about Edward Snowden and all the information he had. Think about the fact that our military, our Department of Defense Space Force, if you think that they don't have the actual real results from the election, then you're fooling yourself.
Yeah, but what we do know with this is we're told that there are plenty of notes from people, including Vice President Pence, that there are some recordings of Donald Trump acknowledging that actually what he said in public was nonsense. That some of these states, whether he claimed he was out saying look, Detroit, it's corrupt, it's all corrupt, the results are corrupt. And that when in reality he knew it wasn't. That's illegal.
But you know what? That's what someone's claiming, but that's not the fact, and that's not what Donald Trump really has ever said. He's been very, very clear. I mean, the issues were, for example, in Pennsylvania, the Supreme Court of the state of Pennsylvania stepped in and changed some of the election laws. Under our Constitution, it's only the state legislators that can do that. 2,000 Mules, the film that came out, what they did, they spent over $4 million tracking the phones. And the reason it's only 2,000 mules is that based on the visits to the drop boxes in Georgia, they had to have gone over 10 times. And they've got all the film for that. So the thing is that the election integrity is so different and so problematic in every single state. But that doesn't mean that the machines didn't do something, that there were some other kind of finagling, but the long and short... Go ahead.
Well, it doesn't, but that's where conspiracy comes in, is it? To say, well, it doesn't mean that something didn't happen. Well, there's no evidence that it happened. I mean, there's how many court cases did the Trump campaign try to bring? Nothing's gone in his favour. Okay,
wait a minute. Everyone, the media goes, oh, there were 60 court cases that were rejected. No, there were 3. He won 2, he lost 1, 57 were never heard because they had no standing. And standing means that the person bringing the case has to claim some kind of impact or injury. So it's really, the media did that, and they're great at doing that, but it was a fallacy in there. And the thing is that, I sit on a task force at the Department of Defense, and the thing is, they've got the goods. They've got the goods. And Trump knew that if he presented any of the goods early on, we'd have a civil war. That he really felt that the people needed to see how bad it could get.
And that's the sense that we're getting from Trump's lawyer about what his defense is going to be. So this is all going to be based on free speech, the First Amendment in the US Constitution, that he had a right to say what he believed. And he believed that the election results were not as was put out. But the point is, if you live in a democracy and you believe in a democracy, then that means that even if you don't like the outcome of an election, you respect that because it's a democratic vote.
Well, a democratic vote, and so therefore he should be silent about it.
He has a right to speak, but the issue, of course, is if he then acts to subvert that election result.
Oh, so that because you think he's being criticized because in Georgia he said, can you find me 12,000 votes? Or, the thing is, he didn't try to subvert anything. What he's really done is he set up the deep state to come out, and that's why we're seeing all these things. I mean, it was revealed with whistleblowers and Hunter Biden's ex-best friend that in 2015, the head of Burisma gave Joe and Hunter Biden $10 million bribe. In 2018, Joe is on TV publicly saying that he threatened that unless they got the prosecutor fired, that he wasn't going to let them have their $1 billion in support. In 2019, Trump calls Zelensky to find out about what went on to get the prosecutor fired, and he gets impeached. I mean, we've lived with it for a long time.
We're almost out of time. I just want to pick you up on one thing. You said earlier on, Donald Trump has been very clear on this. Is he a man that you believe? I mean, look, he's about as believable as a chocolate teapot, isn't he?
Look, I know that, thank God you got the negativity in at the end and not the beginning. I can always count on you for that. Always.
But it's a legitimate point to say that Donald Trump is a man who always speaks the truth. That can't be the case. I mean, it's hardly the case of any leader, to be fair, but, I mean, definitely not Donald Trump.
Well, I don't know if I said everything or always, because I do call him the embellisher-in-chief, because he's a marketer. But in terms of telling us things, optics, you better believe that he's very much a straight shooter in terms of actions that he's going to take or what he thinks needs to be done. You know, they made fun of him because they assumed he broke protocol and walked in front of the Queen. No, if you go back and look at it, you will see he looked at her. She gave a wave with her hand. He proceeded. She took a couple of steps, he stopped, and he waited for her to join. That was an optic to tell us that he then was going to bankrupt the U.S. corporation, because it was the Vatican, the Crown, and the U.S. that was part since 1871. And we were giving you our tax dollars. We were paying back. You know, forget this Tea Party and without taxation, without representation. We owed you a lot of money because you helped us in the Civil War. And so that is what Trump has now, he told the Queen, I'm ending this. We're dissolving this corporation. We're going to go back to being a republic and we'll all be separate. The Pope wasn't happy. You should find the picture of him visiting the Pope. It took 650 planes to remove our gold from the Vatican Bank.
I'm not very happy about it, Jan, to be perfectly honest. We could do with your money at the minute. Keep it flowing, nice.
Very good.
What do you think of that? And that was huge, I think.
Exactly. Do you know who that woman was? She
Dr.
said she
Jan
was
Halper. Dr. Jan Halper.
and she said
Jan
she
Halper Hayes.
I see. And she works in the Pentagon.
She's on the DoD task force with this whole issue, I believe.
Well, see, this is what is causing a lot of issues with people like me, because see, one of the issues for me with politicians is people who talk tough, but have who have not acted the part. And you know, I'm totally removed from the Trump train, because personally, I don't believe the American people want a president who operates like Donald Trump. I mean, what he is doing will help people. That's great, but he's taking a tremendous amount of abuse when in fact other things could be done that he has not entertained doing. And I have attempted to help him in the past when he was president to do those things. After all, we came out of nothing here. I have visited this country in many different states and capitals, including New England. I was there in 2016 when he announced his candidacy. He was there in Concord, New Hampshire. I was there in Concord, New Hampshire. There were others that were there too, including a prayer vigil with Franklin Graham. He had a campaign for America in his own right, praying for the country. And Donald Trump and Franklin Graham know each other quite well. That's their business, okay? I have nothing to do with them. But the realities are, we're way beyond now what Donald Trump might have been doing in from 2016 to now. We are in so deep a crisis that we're going to have to require extreme measures to fix this. But that's why I'm here, folks. And I will say that as we continue down this path to bring about an awareness of what people are suffering from, the government problems that have been created for several years, particularly I would say the last 40 years, that the chickens have come to roost. And if there is not a change, I believe we are done as a society. We will be a communist country and America will have fallen. I hate to say it that way, but
That's where we're headed if we don't stand up and fight back and demand change, folks.
So that's why it's so vitally important that these programs get out. I think you're going to need to edit this show today, Stephen,
Yeah, I'm going to.
and try to make it as smooth and seamless as possible. But I want to encourage everybody to participate in their local government, their state government, and their federal government. And know that the American Party of America, the AOA, the American National Committee, has your back. And we are making history. I will be going to the United Nations very soon with my book, The Ball Doctrine, Creating Peace and Prosperity in Every Nation. It is absolutely necessary this book gets to the right people at the UN, and we continue on that path with proceeding all of the things that are necessary with the New York Times reporters and getting the media behind this campaign through these events. Media covers events. And this is a serious campaign. And as we see other events evolve through it, people will understand better the impact the AOA is having on them. Praise God.
Here,
For
here,
that,
praise God.
I'm honored that we had this conversation. I'm sorry that the guests who we had planned to be here couldn't be, but we will continue to communicate with them and others. And please, folks, remember this, 702-482-8620 is a call-in line. This is the first time we're introducing this. And I'm very pleased, Stephen, you were able to find this as a means to create participation and energy for the campaign for America.
Yeah, definitely, folks. And just know, we want you to call in, ask quick questions. You can speak with Dennis live while we're on the air, but only while we're live, because once it's the live is done, we can't answer questions from the future. But that being said, show up on the live, ask questions. We'd love to have you guys. We're going to be having this number for our other lives as well, that we do through News for Us World. So feel free to jump on and ask us questions in any of our future broadcasts. We'd love to hear from you, folks. We want to hear from you.
Very good. Well, with that, Stephen, I think we should wrap it up and do the closing, and we'll see you next time.
Sounds good. All right, folks. Thank you for joining us. Let's play the outro and then we'll wrap it up.